Now we get into the shit. The shit. What's up, guys? This is Courtney, one half of the Brothers Deconstruction here, and I'm back with a super late review for the original Tales from the Hood. This movie came out in 1995 and stars Clarence Williams III, Joe Torre, Samuel Monroe Jr., DeAndre Bonds, David Allen Grier. Has a lot of well-known black actors in the film. Now, if you've seen my review for Tales from the Hood 2, yeah, don't watch that one. Watch this one. It's much better. Now, this film, I'm going to be going by like a story-by-story type of review inside of the film, because there's one framing story and then smaller story set up, just like the second one. I really wish I would have reviewed this one first before reviewing the second one. Yeah, let's just kind of wipe Tales from the Hood 2 out of our minds. There are going to be spoilers, of course. I'm going to be talking about plot points, but yeah, this movie came out in 95, so that's on you. I remember growing up with this film, so yeah. The movie starts out with DeAndre Bonds, Samuel Monroe Jr., and Joe Torre going to Clarence Williams III, his funeral home. He plays Mr. Sims. They go to this funeral home because he found some drugs in the alley, he says at one point in the film, and they're going to get them because the drugs are theirs. Now, a lot of the acting in the film is campy, it's over the top, but the atmosphere and the music and the actual situations that they find themselves in are actually really creepy, and the acting just kind of lends to the unsettling nature of everything that's going on. But they go to the funeral home to get the drugs, and, you know, Mr. Sims says, yes, I have them here. He's eccentric, crazy looking, so it's something off about him. You can tell that early in the film. So they follow him throughout the funeral home, and he tells them, they come across different caskets and everything like that, and he tells them stories about what happened to these people. So the first one is Road Cop Revelation, I believe it is. Now, this story is about a cop named Clarence Smith, I believe. He's a rookie cop, black guy. He has a white partner. Him and his partner come across two other white cops doing a traffic stop on this black guy. So he's saying, you have no reason to pull me over, blah, 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 this and that. They bust out his tail light. You have a broken tail light. All this stuff. Clarence tries to jump in. They tell him, look, go run the plates. Now this turns out that this black guy is a black politician who's been getting rid of crooked cops in the police department. Now, this movie came out in 95. Rodney King happened in 91. There's a history of, we know the history of police brutality against black people. We know the history of the LAPD seeming to be the most corrupt police department in the country. That's nothing new. But with all that being said, you'd think that, especially in today's climate, that this story and a lot of the stories in this movie will make you roll your eyes, and they don't, because they handle it a different way, or at least I look at it a different way. So they beat up on him while Clarence is running the plates, and it's weird because, one, he runs the plates and sees that it belongs to this politician, this well-known politician, and then he jumps in after they done whooped his ass already, and he say, this is so-and-so. You didn't know that when you first rolled up on him?
I didn't recognize him.
I don't understand. They tell him, hey, we'll take him to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. He falls for the shit. He had the opportunity to stop it, but he didn't for whatever reason. But he falls for it. He leaves. Later on, they drive his car off. They drive his car to like a creek or something like that, a pier, and they plant drugs in his trunk. They actually shoot him up with drugs, and then they push the car off into the water. He dies, blah, blah, blah. Now, Clarence has since left the force and become a guilt-ridden drunk because he could have stopped them. Now, the politician comes back as a zombie. He's been calling Clarence's name. So Clarence goes to those 3 cops, lead them to his grave, which one of the guys, the main offender who was beating his ass and, busted his tail light. He pisses on his grave. He talks one of the other cops who's really, really hesitant to do the same. That cop gets grabbed by his balls, gets his head continually rammed into the gravestone, sucked into the grave, it explodes, he's in the casket now, and the politician, all super zombie, is out and about. So he's chasing them, and again, the acting is over the top. At one point, Clarence's former partner tells him, like, hey, calm the fuck down, this isn't the time to panic. And then the other guy says, well, when the fuck do we start panicking? Now, after the cop gets, like, sucked in, and the grave explodes and things like that, they both run off, and that cop says, okay, now it's time to start panicking. So that was funny, but in the heat of the moment, that was an entertaining moment. But, in the heat of things, you understand why they're overacting and why they have this dialogue and everything like that. So this first story actually didn't have, like, terrible acting in it. I think they were I think the white cops were a little over the top. But, if you're going to do a short story like this, don't be subtle with it. Be over the top when it comes to something like cops unjustly pulling people over, beating the shit out of them, and then framing them. Go over the top. Don't do it, because there's nothing subtle about those actions. So yeah, the zombie chases them down, kills them. There's a really cool sequence. There's a mural that we see that Clarence goes to, and it's a mural of the politician. Now later on, after he's killed the other 2 cops, one of them, he rips his head off, and we get like the body falling back into the car and blood squirting and everything like that. Clarence's former partner, I forget these characters' names, he kind of runs through the alley. He's basically lost his damn mind. The zombie basically telepathically picks up needles because it has junkies and homeless people in the alley. He picks up needles and crucifies him against this wall where it's a mural of a cross. He crucifies him, sends the last needle into his mouth. It's a really cool perspective of the shot and subsequent scene afterwards where he melts into the mural. It's a really cool shot. And he becomes one with the mural, and he says, "Welcome to my world." The voice is kind of weird, but essentially you get the point. And then Clarence kind of asks for forgiveness. Is my job done? And he says, "Where were you at when I needed you?" And Clarence gets arrested and put in a psychiatric hospital and blamed for the murders of the 3 cops. And it's like, but guess what? He used to be one. After that story, our 3 amigos are still going through the funeral home. Now, they come across this one casket of this contorted, burnt skeleton. I can't remember I was kind of watching it, kind of doing something else, so I missed the shot of the actual skeleton in the beginning, so I don't know if they showed it, but I do know that they show it at the end of the story. But this one is Boys Do Bruise. This story is about Brandon Hammond, who actually hasn't acted since 2001. I think that was his last movie role. He plays a kid who gets beat up at home by his mom's boyfriend. Now Rusty Cundieff, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, he's the director of the film, and I think he directed Tales from the Hood too as well. He plays the teacher in this story. The teacher notices bruises. He just transfers to the school. Kids are picking on him, fighting him, jumping him already. And then, he takes him to the nurse, notices the bruises and everything like that. He tells him about a monster later on. And then we see him drawing a picture of the monster. It says one of the girls in the class says that her mom told her, draw what scares you or something like that and burn it and it'll leave you alone. So he does that. Now, he's doing that during recess. I can't remember if the teacher goes outside or not, but at some point, Brandon's character balls up this piece of paper and you hear a scream outside. And it was the kid that was jumping him and fighting him earlier. And apparently he fell down the stairs and broke both arms and legs. And it wasn't like he was pushed, he just collapsed and fell. So that that point right there kind of adds a little bit to, it sets up something later on in the story. Now overall in this story, again, the acting in this story isn't really over the top. It's subdued and it's kind of subtle, but the best performance, this probably has the second best acting in it in this movie out of all the stories. David Alan Grier does a great job as the monster, and it's such a different turn for him because in the 90s, David Alan Grier was known as a comedian. He was known as a funny man. So to see him pull off this type of subtle and subdued acting, at least when the teacher shows up later on, because then he comes back to school with more bruises. That's when he finds out about the monster at home, and then he goes to his house. Now, before I get back to David Alan Grier, there are a couple of weird things happen in this story. The teacher goes to the house later on in the night. Who does that? Like, if your teacher is going to show up, first of all, I don't know many teachers are going to go to the student's house. But then again, I guess this is something that would concern a teacher enough to have them go to the student's house. But they wouldn't show up. It's dark outside, right? I'm assuming it's 8, 9 o'clock. What teacher is going to show up to a student's house that late? It will more than likely be right after school. Secondly, Paula Jai Parker, who plays the mom, Sissy, I believe, she answers the door in a towel. Who does this? Who does this? She answers the door in a towel. She puts on like a dress, and it's like, it's not quite a nightgown, but it's almost like a dress that you would wear outside. It's a dress that comes to the knees. You know, she's obviously just gotten out the shower, so she isn't wearing a bra, things like that. And then she starts, you know, a bird poops on the teacher's jacket, and she starts cleaning the jacket off, and she kind of starts flirting with him.
With a lot of bruises, you know. Kind of banged up.
The boy's clumsy. He's always falling over something. I don't know where he gets it. Not me. Certainly not me.
Super, super hard. It's not subtle flirting. It's hardcore flirting. I'm staring into your eyes. This is the only weird thing in this particular story. But David Alan Grier comes home. The teacher tells him about the monster, this and that. And he says, I'll talk to him. And it's just, you can tell that the way that he answers that, he has a really, really short temper, and he finna fuck all them up as soon as his teacher leaves, which he does after he leaves. He goes up to the stairs, he goes up to Brandon's room. That's not his name. I can't remember the kid's name. I think it's Carl or something. But he goes up to Carl's room, and he starts picks him up by his shirt, smacks him around, pushes him up against the wall. You know, his mom tries to jump in. He starts whooping her with a belt. And it's over the top, calling motherfuckers, or you think that shit is funny, this and that. And it's very, very over the top. But when it comes to somebody who obviously has outbursts like this, and you know, a kid is coming to school with bruises on their face because they're getting whooped, you can imagine that it's not like a calm smacking around. From, you know, at least what we've seen in other media, and there are a few stories that we've heard about people having outbursts and assaulting their spouses or their children. It's crazy, and it's a really, really big outburst that normally happens. So, of course, yeah, you want the person to be yelling and screaming and overacting. The teacher is leaving. He gets in his car. He hears a scream, sees the silhouette of her getting beaten through the window. He runs back in the house, runs to their defense, gets his ass whooped, and then, you know, he's just whooping them all around the kitchen. Sissy tries to grab a pot, tries to hit him. He grabs it, and then before he can hit her with it, Brandon had grabbed the drawing of the monster and folded the arm. It breaks his arm. He folds the leg. He collapses, crumples it up. He spins around. He really mangles him. And then after a while, she stomps on it, and he's just there, not dead yet. I don't know how, but he's not dead yet. He's still talking shit. And then they put it on the stove and burn it and burn him alive. Which there are a couple of other weird things as well. He doesn't scream while he's burning. Most of the time you would expect somebody to be screaming if they're being burned alive. But I've never been burned alive, clearly, so I don't know that to be a fact. And the other thing is, they give David Alan Grier's character a tattoo that says monster on it. I think that was too bit on the nose because David had such a good performance that should have carried that label of monster. You didn't have to put that on. You didn't have to put a tattoo on him that said that. So after this story ends, then we see the corpse or the skeleton in the casket, and they're like, damn, it's a really bad look. It's just a burnt skeleton with the arms all wrapped around and things like that. The next story after that is KKK Comeuppance. And this is about, now leading into this story, there isn't a body to be shown in the casket. There's a little doll. Now I remember this when I was little because the dolls didn't scare me. I just thought it was kind of cool. Other people that did watch it did say that the dolls scared them. Mr. Sims shows them a doll, and he goes into this story. And it's about a senator who's, I guess, running for re-election. And he's a former member of the KKK. He's still racist because he has some lines in the movie that are racist. And he sets up his office on this old plantation, in this old plantation home. And he has Jewish and black people protesting on his lawn because of it. He has a black publicist or campaign manager, I'm guessing, working on his image, and he's filming for that. But the funny thing is, they play a commercial of his about affirmative action, and he kind of makes a good point. So he kind of makes a point, but I just thought that was hilarious, like watching the movie again. Or they're filming something as if he's being asked questions and everything like that, so they can kind of coach him through their media. He's being media trained. And the guy kind of tells him, hey, we need to get you reelected first before you do all this and that. And let's just work on bettering your image. Follow me. This is how you're going to answer this question. The guy falls down the stairs and dies. At the funeral, they still ask him questions about, oh, what's going on now? Or how do you feel? Blah, blah, blah. How does this affect the campaign? This and that. Now, earlier in the film, there's this old black guy outside with the protesters telling the news anchors that this house is haunted by the souls of the slaves that were murdered here. Because after the Civil War, it's explained after the Civil War, the slave master killed all of his slaves because they were about to go free. So the old guy pops back up at this funeral and tells him, hey, you need to leave now or you're going to end up like him or worse. Now, the little doll that we see is in the limo as he's going back. So he tells the black driver, stop the car. He throws it out, goes back home. Now, after, he's watching the video, watches the guy fall down the stairs, and he pauses it because he notices that the little doll is at the top of the stairs, seemingly causing him to trip. Now he starts getting terrorized, here's a knock at the door, here's little footsteps run past, this and that. They start terrorizing him, or this doll, one particular doll starts terrorizing him. He darts it up. Now again, he's over the top acting. I'm gonna blow your little nuts off. You'd probably be doing the same if you were at home and you heard like small footsteps and all this weird shit was happening, right? So eventually he shoots the doll with a shotgun, ends up coming back, but notices that more dolls off the painting have basically disappeared. Their silhouette has become white. So the dolls end up attacking him. He hits the painting at one point and it starts bleeding. All the more dolls start disappearing off of it. And then, he just turns around and sees all of them. And they converge on him, start attacking him, eating him alive, this and that. And then the voodoo witch on the doll in her rocking chair appears and, is just there watching this happen. So that's the story. Again, it's most of the acting in this film can be considered campy and over the top. But again, I think the situations that are presented kind of warrant it. None of the acting really bothers me, is basically what I'm trying to say. None of the acting really bothers me, and it just adds to the entertainment value. This last story is called Hardcore Convert, and it stars Lamont Bentley, rest in peace, as Crazy K. He's a gang member, super violent, homicidal maniac, basically. He sees a rival gang member, follows him, shoots and kills him outside of a house. 3 men run out the house, start shooting at Crazy K. They wound him, they shoot him in the back, and they approach him and ask him where you want us to shoot you next. Now, before this happens, before they actually kill him, the police show up. Somehow, more silent than Slender Man, and the guys run off. Now, one of them shoots at the police, and the police kill all 3 men. And Crazy K is saved by the police. He's arrested, sent to prison. Now, a doctor who's played by an actress, I forget her name, who also passed away, actually. And this was actually her last role before she died. She transfers Crazy K to a different facility. He's been in solitary. They put him in a cell. The cells are weird because they're like super small and you like sit in them. And Lamont Bentley is like overacting because he has this mean scowl on his face and he just looks mad all the time. So I guess that was kind of funny to see and kind of weird to watch. Like, why are you always so angry looking? But if you're gonna go around, killing people like he did, I guess you gotta be angry. But they place him in a cell next to a white supremacist, and they have a conversation about how, all black people, basically the race war, all black people are gonna die. Those who are gonna survive are gonna be the ones who think the same way that we do, and they'll be slaves. Crazy K punches this guy in the face, and then he asks him, hey, let me ask you something. And Crazy K can't say anything because they've been black people. So the doctor pulls him and says, you have the opportunity to be released if you go through this rehabilitation program. He says, yeah, let's do it. I don't appreciate being put in with that crazy Klan motherfucker, though. And she says, I did that on purpose so you can hopefully see what your actions have done and turn everything around. This rehabilitation plan or process is basically torture. They shave his head, they put like a little loin cloth, like a banana hammock on him, and tie him down to this gurney, strap his head in place, strap his arms down, put this, like when you go to the eye doctor and they have you look into that thing and they change the lenses so you can read the wall. Basically that, but they show him videos of lynchings and gang violence and people that he's killed, basically, while, spinning him around on the table, on the weird table thing. Again, it's basically torture. She asked him, this is what you've been doing. You've been killing innocent black people just like they used to do back then. So you need to change. That's basically what she's telling him. And then they put him in a sensory deprivation room, and all of a sudden the strobe light starts flashing and he starts seeing the souls of the people that he's killed. And they ask him, why? Why did you have to shoot me? Why did I have to die? And he says, like the first guy, he says, look, you were coming up short all the time. I couldn't let you rip me off. This little girl says, why did I have to die? A bullet ain't got no name on it. You were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. He refuses to take responsibility for all of these murders. And the doctor says, look, this is your last chance for redemption. And he says, look, I don't give a fuck. This ain't nothing. This ain't all on me. This is, you created this, like the world created this monster, how I was, the world that I was brought into, how I was raised, the environment that I came up in. Yeah, now I'm America's nightmare. And she desperately pleads with him, trying to get him to redeem himself and to accept responsibility. So he ends by having an outburst, grabbing one of the assistants and saying, let me out of here, I'll snap this bitch's neck. Like, I don't give a fuck. This is not on me, I don't give a fuck. And he ends with saying, I don't give a fuck. Everybody kind of vanishes and he's just standing there holding nothing, saying, I don't give a fuck. Now, he wakes up, or we're transported back to that moment before the cops saved him. And he basically wakes up answering their question, where do you want us to shoot you next? Now, the story kind of ends there, and we see Samuel Monroe Jr.'s character. I think he's Bulldog. That's the only character that I remember. We're back in the funeral home. DeAndre Bond's character says, look who it is. And Mr. Sims asked him, oh, you were friends with him? And so after the whole story,
I'm losing my potato. Now where's that?
He pistol whips him, says, we don't know how you knew that, but get us the shit, we can give you the money, and then we can get the fuck up out of here. And so then Mr. Sims just goes crazy. He's like, whoa, just starts screaming and shit like that.
So man crazy. Whoa!
This is one of the best over-the-top performances I've ever seen. He goes and says, it's this way. And he starts like pointing at light bulbs as he's walking toward the room, and they start coming on. And it's funny because I think DeAndre Bond's character kind of double takes and like, what the fuck? How's he doing that? And he points and they come on. He says, they're in the caskets. Where else would they be? He's like yelling and shit at this point, sweating. It's really weird. But again, his eccentricness adds to the atmosphere. Because now some shit finna go down. They all go to the caskets. There's 3 of them. I guess it's a lot of drugs. Wink, wink. Joe Torre's character is the first one to open up his casket and see that it's him inside of it. Then they open up their caskets and they're like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck going on? Mr. Sims' eyes turn red and he basically heats up the guns, making them drop the guns. And he says, after you killed Crazy K, some of his homeboys came and killed you. And they're like, how is it like we're all 3 of us wouldn't be in here in this funeral home with your crazy ass? And it's funny because does that not make sense? Not what he said. That what he said doesn't make sense. If you guys are dead, of course all 3 of you will be in the funeral home. And then we get one of the best lines and deliveries ever in cinema.
Yes! Ain't no funeral home. Ain't the Teledome neither.
It's just great. I love this movie. And then we get the greatest line in cinema history.
Welcome to hell.
And the walls kind of shatter, showing like infernos and flames and everything like that. And yeah, they're in hell. So yeah, the funniest thing to come out of this scene besides that whole thing is DeAndre Bones is just like Harlem shaking, doing the Tyrone Biggums dance while they like superimpose flames over him. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, that's my super long, super late review of Tales from the Hood. And again, the overall the acting in the film is over the top. But I think the acting the Boys Do Bruise, that has the best acting out of all of the stories, and then the Hardcore Convert has the second best acting in the film. Again, a lot of the acting is campy. It probably does come off as silly, but for me, the situations, the atmosphere, just the overall creepiness, the acting lends itself to that, for me at least. And again, I love this film. I need to buy it on Blu-ray because that's what this cover is from, the Blu-ray cover. And yeah, guys, this is much better than Tales from the Hood 2. And Tales from the Hood 2 went way over the top and way too on the nose and out of left field and leaned more into the comedic side of things with that story and that framing setup. But this one, I think, was much more, because again, in a time where, a lot of this shit was happening, this wasn't as on the nose to me, and it had much better acting. The situations themselves weren't outrageous, and they leaned more into the horror aspect for me than I think the second one did. And it's really disappointing because Rusty Cundieff directed both films. So I'm wondering where he went, why he went so far in one direction instead of staying in this one with this film. So yeah, I say give this a watch if you can. I own it on DVD. I'm going to be buying the Blu-ray so I can actually get that cover. And yeah, guys, I'm going to try to knock out a bunch of Super Late reviews, get them posted or get them uploaded. I have to redo one. I can't remember if I said this before, but my Super Late review for Hitman's Bodyguard got a claim put on it before it even uploaded. And I didn't realize it because at that point I had recorded so many and just uploaded them for particular release dates that when I went back to see what days I didn't have one on, I noticed that it got a claim put on it. And I only remember using footage from the trailer, so I don't know why I got a claim put on it. But I got to redo that one and then re-upload that one. But I'll start knocking out a bunch of Super Late reviews again and get them posted. But this was one of the ones that I was really looking forward to doing, especially after I did the Super Late review for Tales from the Hood 2. So yeah, again, this is an entertaining movie, way more entertaining than the sequel. I say go out and watch it if you can. If you can, it's cheap. I have the DVD. I know the DVD can't cost that much. And I know the Blu-ray probably doesn't cost that much either. So if you can find this, I say get it. It's worth the watch. So yeah, I'm going to get some more stuff uploaded for you guys. I'll be talking to you.